Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast, brought to you by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 provides streamlined access to behavioral and mental health services, as well as crisis resources for Michigan's Frontline 5 workers and their families. This includes all professional, part-time, and volunteer firefighters, EMS, law enforcement, corrections officers, and 911 dispatchers in Michigan and their immediate family members. First responders and mental health experts collaboratively created FST5 to provide 24/7 live support, effective resources, and cutting-edge services to prevent and alleviate PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Need help now? If you are a frontline worker in Michigan or an immediate family member experiencing any crisis, work-related, substance abuse, depression, relationships, finances, or any other, reach out by calling 1-833-34-STRONG or go to fst5.org for more information. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of the hosts of the Minds on the Frontline podcast, and I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. Minds on the Frontline is co-hosted by Mike Mattern, who is also a professional firefighter and paramedic. In addition, Mike is a peer support team member for his fire department and the Frontline Strong Together 5 program, a board member of the Michigan Crisis Response Association, and the former chair of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union Behavioral Health Committee. Mike has training and experience with frontline worker mental and behavioral health. On the other hand, I do not. My role is to produce the show, whereas Mike is our resident subject matter expert. Together, we hope to inform, educate, and entertain frontline workers, their families, and the public regarding the realities of frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Many frontline workers endure immense pressure and trauma daily. This relentless exposure to high-stress situations can lead to severe mental health challenges, including the dark corridors of addiction and suicidal ideation. Historically, these issues have been cloaked in stigma, leaving many to battle their demons in silence, unable to seek the help they so desperately need. Addiction, whether to substances or behaviors, frequently emerges as a coping mechanism, a desperate attempt to numb the pain of stress, trauma, and the overwhelming emotional weight carried by these individuals. It is crucial to recognize addiction as a medical condition, a cry for help rather than a moral failing. By addressing the root cause with compassion and understanding, we can pave the way for a journey of recovery and hope. Suicidal ideation is another profound and harrowing concern. The crushing combination of high-stress environments, relentless exposure to traumatic events, and the stigma surrounding mental health can plunge individuals into depths of hopelessness and despair. Creating an open, supportive environment where they feel safe to voice their struggles is vital, allowing them to seek the help they need without fear of judgment. Peer support programs are lifelines in the fight against these mental health battles. They connect individuals with peers who have walked similar paths, offering a unique blend of empathy and understanding that can be profoundly healing. By breaking down the walls of stigma, peer support makes it easier for individuals to reach out and grasp the help they need. Treatment and rehabilitation centers offer sanctuaries of professional support for those grappling with addiction and mental health issues. These centers provide a wide array of services, from counseling and medical treatment to holistic therapies, each tailored to meet the unique needs of individuals. By addressing the root causes of their struggles, these centers offer a comprehensive approach to recovery, guiding individuals back to a path of hope and healing. In this episode, we sit down with Skip O., a retired professional firefighter from Anderson, Indiana, and the host of the Burnt Out podcast. With 33 years of service, Skip brings a wealth of experience and insight into the challenges faced by frontline workers. His journey is marked by significant personal and professional trials, including battling alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicidal ideation, undergoing treatment at multiple centers, and surviving a heart attack at just 34 years old. Sober since February 2000, Skip's story is one of resilience, recovery, and dedication to giving back to the community. During this episode, Skip shares his powerful experiences, the origin and purpose of the Burnt Out podcast, and he offers invaluable insights for department leaders on supporting the mental and behavioral health of their personnel. This episode underscores the critical importance of community and support systems in maintaining well-being for those on the front lines. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
We're doing good, man. We're here with you, Skip.
We're killing
All right.
it here. Loving it. We met you recently down at the FDIC in Indianapolis, and if you are a firefighter, professional, full-time, career, non-volunteer, it doesn't matter. Go to that. It's a very impressive conference. And we got to meet you there. So with no further ado, introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Sure. My name's Skip Ockman. I was a firefighter for 33 years at Anderson, Indiana. I'm married, have 5 children, and a lot of grandkids, and a few great grandkids. And I'm the president of the Burnout podcast, and I help people, firefighters, first responders, with has any mental health issues, get treatment if needed. My job here today is just trying to share my brokenness with somebody and just save them from walking down the same path that I did years ago.
Yeah, one of the things you and I, when we met at FDIC, we were talking at your booth about how you got started in all of this and how it's led to you really making a life in a retirement out of helping people. And even right now, as we speak to you, you're not in home, you're not in your basement, you're on the road. Tell everybody what you're doing right now.
Well, I got an opportunity. It was kind of a quick opportunity that to come to Maryland to the Center of Excellence to talk to the clients there, the other firefighters. I hate to say clients, they're other brothers and sisters. You know, I was there 4 years ago for my mental health, and I get to go and share a little bit with them.
That's awesome. You're going to give back to it. That's awesome. Good for you.
Hey, I'm not the brightest star in the sky, but at least I'm a star today due to them and a whole lot of other people through the years helping me get where I needed to get.
Well, let's talk about how you got there. When and how did you realize that behavioral and mental health issues are real life concerns for frontline workers?
I tell you, for me, is years ago on the department, you know, I was around 22 years old, just got on 6 months at the fire department in Anderson, and I was at my first treatment center. They took me from the fire department to the treatment center. I was a drinker. I liked drinking, taking drugs. And they didn't understand about PTSD or peer support. I was kind of a, guinea pig. I'm not the first one. There's a couple of them that tried to get help too back then, but I was there for 30 days and I just went through the show just to save my job. That's why I was there. And I was in and out for like 11 years for treatment. I was going through, I knew I needed something. I didn't know what that something was. So I would say in my late mid-20s and stuff, I knew it was important, but it wasn't important for me at the time.
Sure, you recognized it, but it's one of those things like as easy as to say is maybe I need to lose a little bit of weight, but you don't do anything about it. Like you're recognizing you're going down. This is obviously more of a sinister situation because you could be killing yourself a little bit quicker with the lifestyle you were choosing. Now, you said very young. So you obviously started out as a professional firefighter very young in your career. Like me, we got hired in our very early 20s, Mike as well.
Yep. 21.
Sure.
Yeah, real young. Yep. And so, was it the job that set you up? Was it the generations that were already there leading you astray? Like what got you into that situation so early in your career?
Well, I tell you, with my family, I came from a good family, so I can't blame anybody. I got to take responsibility. But when I was a young teenager, we'd drink on the weekends, sneak bottles of alcohol and drink. Heck, when I was 15 years old, I remember taking my first drink, and it was with my family. My mom's from Big Bottom, Tennessee, and all of them were playing banjos, guitars, having a good time, passing the moonshine around. And I took a big old swig, and that's what started it. And then I remember the first time I really felt drunk. I felt like I could be around people. I felt like I could talk. Growing up, I felt alone in a crowded room, and I did feel a part of my family. And that was nothing that was done to them. It's just that's how I felt. And when I took that drink, man, it sent me into something that I was trying to catch my whole life, just to being a part of something and feeling whole. And then sometime in my life, I crossed that line where it was a necessity. I had to keep drinking. And then when I got on the fire department, I did clean myself up to get on the fire department. Then that's when the runs came in, doing CPR on little kids, seeing shootings, stabbings. And then I used alcohol and drugs just to cover the pain and the hurt. And I didn't know how to deal with that stuff. And I felt weak if I shared it with somebody, and I didn't want to do that. And I think underneath the weakness in that was a lot of fear. I didn't want to think I couldn't handle the job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big underlying cause that nobody really wants to talk about is that fear of I don't want to expose this. I don't want to touch it.
You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
That's it. And you're afraid once you open that,
Yeah.
squeeze the toothpaste out, open up Pandora's box, whatever you want to call it, there ain't no putting it back. It's there. And I
Yeah.
think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's a lot of fear to open yourself and be vulnerable and go, this got to me or that got to me, or I don't want to deal with this because if I just tuck it down, I won't have to deal with it. You know what I mean?
And my mom and dad, they all tried to help me. It's just, I didn't want to, family, they could tell you exactly what you need, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it from them. And I kept my days when I'd get off the job, fire department, go home, wait till the liquor stores open at 9. I'd get a bottle, I'd drink, and then I'd shoot up cocaine so I could stay up, stay up and drink more. Then I'd pass out, get back up, drink again, go to the fire department, wear long sleeve shirts so they couldn't see my track marks, and then get on the medic again. And that went on for a long time. And then it got to a point where I had to get people to come and work for me at night or something because I started getting the shakes and I couldn't do a whole 24-hour shift, or something would happen that I just couldn't deal with, whether it was a run, a call, a fire, whatever it was. I'd have somebody come in and I'd pay them whatever I could. And I did that for a lot of years.
Yep. Whatever it took to keep it going.
So it sounds like you just had almost a predilection towards this. Like you just maybe a couple of things, genetic, maybe predispositions, some obvious, maybe not so obvious childhood stuff that may have led you to make decisions. And then the classic, I finally felt like I could express myself in groups, drinking or using a chemical substance, right? I mean, it's easy to allow yourself to go down that road when it makes you feel like a part of the tribe around you.
Oh yeah. And the environment at the fire department, you party, you go to the fire lodge, you do things, you get on the department, and he had a big ego. I got involved in a lot of different things, doing tough man contests and karate. I was trying to find something to fill the hole in my soul, whether it was sex, the old saying, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I did a lot of that, and it never did fill that hole. It just took it to a toll, almost lost my job, and I went through one marriage. It's that old, you're writing a country song, basically.
Right. Well, yeah, well, those things are expected. If you can't stop, they're expected to get worse. And this is kind of that warning of like, at some point you got to realize, you're in the hole.
Well, I mean, I think it's easy too because the culture is so, and I don't even want to say the fire department, but I want to say the first responder community is that party culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After you get off shift, you want to go hang out with the crew. You want to go pop a couple beers, probation parties, promotional parties, retirement parties, trips to the Tiger game.
We're all off at 9 a.m.
Yeah,
Right?
the culture really kind of allows you to have that lifestyle. You have a lot of time off, decent amount of money in your pocket, and nothing to do.
Right.
And
some people do this right. We're not trying to say that all people with this amount of time off do this.
No.
Some people have very, very, very productive lives and they use their time wisely.
But the environment is there to allow it.
Oh yeah. Idle times can be the devil's playground for the certain people in certain situations, and timing is everything. Your environment's everything.
And then you mix in the pressure cooker of work.
Yeah.
You mix in the stress, the trauma, whatever you bring in before to the job, and that environment is just rich for this stuff.
Right.
It's very easy to slip into that.
So it sounds like you were in a really tough, bouncy, hard road. So how do you go from that to this happy dude that we met down in Indy? You're like this calm, happy, everybody talks about Skip, how much they like him and he helps people. So how do you go from hiding track marks, almost losing your job, losing a wife, and then, hey, Skip, you look like you're doing well?
I tell you, it's I quit, just like trying to quit smoking. I quit 1,000 times, but I never stayed quit. February 7th of 2000, about 7:30 at night. I was in and out of AA or 12-step meetings for 11 years. I finally I looked at my wife. I took my gulp of alcohol, just trying to get the shakes away. And I threw it all up. I couldn't keep it down anymore. I looked at her, and this is my second wife. And I said, I can't do it no more. And I seen people like this before, later on. But if you look at me at the time, I didn't have no substance in my eyes. I was just like existing. And she loaded me in the van, and they wanted me to go to the hospital and detox because I had a heart attack when I was 33 years old due to the alcohol and drugs.
Oh, wow.
I was 34 then. It's a year later. So they took me to the hospital. And while I was there, a lady came, talked to me from a treatment center. And this would be the fifth treatment center I'd go through. One of the doctors came in. He was a good doctor. He was one of the guys that before we even talked about what was going on with me through the years, he'd talk about spirituality, which I didn't know at the time. That's what he was doing. He said, Skip, some people, the alcohol affects their liver. It affects your heart. If you drink again, you're going to die. And he told me the truth. Still then, the insanity of it, I thought, oh, he's just trying to scare me. But I went through treatment. I ended up going to a halfway house because, I didn't want to be married to my wife anymore. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to put the work and effort into a relationship because, I went to a halfway house and they let me go to work at the fire department. So that's how it started. I went to the halfway house for 90 days. I started getting involved in a 12-step program, started helping people. And then it just took root. It made sense. And I started going to therapy. Me and my wife started going to therapist. I remember when I got my year in and I was at a meeting and I took my year token and I kind of thought, man, I kind of want to be married today. I said it out loud and my wife was sitting by me. And that's the first time she heard it because she thought I wanted to divorce her still. And then we did our work and then, a lot of different things happened. Life started getting better. And then 18 years later, I was doing real well. Then I never dealt with the PTSD or I never dealt with when my granddaughter died and all the kids that I would do CPR on, all the runs. I don't have to go into detail about all of them, but I had to go back to the treatment center, which was a center of excellence in Maryland for firefighters. And that worked on everything because I remember 18 years was golden. And then something happened in my life. I found out my life was based on a lie in my mind. And I got tired of falling down and getting up. And I thought, man, I've been in all these treatment centers. I've been sober 18 years. I'm talking, I'm volunteering, and I'm not happy anymore. I thought about killing myself and I planned it. And then somebody recognized something in me and they confronted me. And I remember I said, I would never do that to my family. I told this person, of course, I'm lying to him. And that's when a conversation I had with a friend of mine 20 years prior said the same thing to me. And he was a firefighter. He killed himself 2 months later. And I finally broke down and I told the guy, our peer support guys, man, I said, I want to put a shotgun in my mouth. I'm tired of doing all this stuff. So I wanted to be a little bit alive than dead. And I went to the Center of Excellence for 43 days and I worked on everything, just everything, all the traumas, all the stuff from when I was younger, the thing that shook my life up that I thought my life was based on a lie. I worked on all of it. I came home and at that time I was having an affair with my wife before I went. So I broke up the affair. I came back, told my wife, we got therapy, and then everything, it started getting better and better. And then that's when I went into, with help from friends, creating a couple of nonprofits, the Worldwide Peer Support and the Burnout Network.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's a real hard road.
That's-
So was it the Center of Excellence, do you think, and the services that they had and that all-encompassing wraparound services helped you?
Yeah, it's before I went to the center, I talked to a friend of mine in England and we created the Worldwide Peer Support, a concept. And then that was what I was going to leave behind because I was going to kill myself. So I wanted to leave the insanity of it. I wanted to leave something behind so nobody would have to suffer. When I went to the Center of Excellence, and it helped me immensely. I met a lot of firefighters there. And then Mark Radigan, the director, when we left, we started doing the Zoom thing, talking to each other. We wanted to stay in contact. So I told them what I wanted to do. And there's clients that are in there when we're doing the Zoom meetings when I'm back at home. And I told them what we're doing. Well, a lot of them attached themselves, wanted to be a part of it. So when they got out, we all met in Nashville, Tennessee in 2020 or 21. We officially formed it as a 501c3, and we had about 40 of us. And we was in a hotel, and then we had Australia was on there, and England was on there, and we formed the Worldwide Peer Support. So not only the Center of Excellence helped us, it helped a lot of other people form this nonprofit, this concept. that which part of the burnout podcast was a part of the worldwide peer support until we separated it later on a couple of years ago.
That's super cool.
That's a super, I mean, you went down a rough road to come out the other side. You know, one thing I kind of want to circle back on, I think it's going to be important. And if you're okay with to talk about it, when you said, you know, you're thinking about killing yourself and you had a plan, you knew what, you know, someone saw it in you. They saw the signs and
Yes.
decided to have that conversation. From your side of it, the person who's contemplating suicide, who's thinking about it, how did that feel when that person came up to you and confronted you with, hey, listen, I'm seeing these things. Is this what you want to do? You know what I mean? Was it something that you wanted to talk about? You just didn't know how to talk about it with somebody? Was it kind of a relief that, okay, somebody's seeing it and I can talk about it? Talk about it from your end of it.
Yeah, why didn't you bullshit your way out of that one? Relax. Right? I mean, that's what we end up doing when you're hurt. Sometimes you don't want to talk about it. You bullshit your way out of it. So like, what made you go, damn it, he's right?
And unfortunately, a lot of times the people complete it before you even have that conversation. People are so afraid to have that conversation.
Right.
Yeah, I want to.
And they might have been waiting for it.
Yes, you might be waiting for it. But
let's let him answer.
Yeah, let's go to it.
That's a good question. I remember, here I'm, 18 years sober. I facilitate a support meeting for families that people has died by suicide. I've done a lot of things in our community. So my ego, I'm thinking I got to be this hero. I got to be the strong person now. I went through all of it. Now I got to be strong. So my ego was keeping me from reaching out. One of the things, and fear. The guy that confronted me was James Harless, and James is okay if I say his name because he does all kinds of things for us. Well, I kind of told him he's going to be head of the peer support or department a few years before that, and send him through classes and all that stuff. So here I am. He's coming up to me and asking me. And I remember being on the conversation with my niece. I was telling her some stuff about her grandma because my mom's passed away. And I remember I did everything in the world not to show the signs because I knew what the signs were. And I was trying not to show them. And I said, well, when I'm gone, I want you to have all that. She goes, what do you mean when you're gone? Then I switched up real quick. I go, man, I'm slipping. And then when James came up and confronted me, I was at the fire department. I started staying in my room more. I wouldn't come out with the guys like I usually would. And I started not talking as much. He walked in my room, and that's when he asked me the question. He goes, man, you're isolating quite a bit. Are you thinking about killing yourself? And I thought that was why would he ask that? Because me and my arrogance, I thought I'm hiding.
Yeah, you're hiding.
Yeah, nobody can see it. I'm doing pretty good and I go, that's when I said, no, man, I wouldn't do that to my family. And that earlier I said that in a conversation when I had that with a friend of mine, Pete. And then all of a sudden I just broke down. I couldn't hide it no more. I wanted to be alive, and I was trying to keep pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. And finally it just came up, or I just let it out. And then I broke down. When I broke down, it was embarrassing, uncomfortable. I didn't like it, but it was a relief too at the same time. And I remember them going to get me in the center of excellence, and I kind of didn't want to go, but I did. There's a picture I got on my mantle, and it shows a guy. He's a first responder. You got devil creature pulling on one side and all the other first responders pulling on the other side. And that's how I felt. I wanted to be alive, but then again, I didn't want to be alive. It was just miserable. And I wanted to go one way or the other, and I didn't know how to go stay alive anymore. And I need taught. But I had all that pain and stuff that I never dealt with through the years, anchors pulling me down, and I had to go to get help for that. But it was a saving grace for me because I can't say if he never asked or nobody asked, I wouldn't be here today. I have a strong feeling that I wouldn't because I had a plan and I was going to follow through. I was preparing myself. And it might sound crazy. I was trying to make sure the insurance, everything was taken care of with my family. So when I did go, I didn't leave a big burden with them. But I'm grateful for him today. And I get emotional sometimes when I talk about it because it was a pivoting point in my life.
Pulled you out of the hole. That's a big day, man. That's looking back on that. That's huge.
Yeah, and he got in some trouble years ago, and I was able to help him and get him involved in stuff. And here he's helping me.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
absolutely. You go, we go.
A lot of people that you talk to who contemplated or got real close, they talk about how at that point that they admitted it, they felt their weakest at that point. Like they felt defeated, they felt weak. And then if you talk to them down the road, they actually come back and say, I feel like that was my strongest point. That was my turning point. but at the time you feel like you're about as low could be. You feel like you're about 2 inches tall. And it's impressive when you talk to people like that, they actually look back at that moment, and you even said it. You're like, that's where it turned. That's where everything flipped.
Sure.
To people who are listening here, it's okay to talk about it. It doesn't make you less of a firefighter, less of a first responder, less of a person. I mean, you're hearing it from Skip firsthand here. It may feel like the weakest part of your journey, but when you look back at it, it's going to be the strongest. And on the flip side of it, if you see those people who are struggling and they're struggling, don't be afraid to go up and have that conversation with them, because you said it right there. If he hadn't come and saw those things and talked to you, there's a good chance you wouldn't be here today, just because he came and had that conversation with you. So if you're listening and you see those things, don't be afraid to go talk to somebody about it. Please. It's huge. You don't even realize.
Absolutely. I tell you, I'm just so blessed that, we have American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They have classes that teaches you how to ask that question or to recognize the signs. And, just because we're a nonprofit, we don't know it all. That's why it's good partnership and collaboration with other nonprofits or professionals that know what they're doing. And I'm glad that they were involved in my life too, and they were there right around me and supporting me. I volunteered for them for years, and they were supporting me and let me go through what I needed to go through. But I got a good life today. Not saying, I don't have those days where every now and then that darkness comes, but I got people I can call, and I know when it's coming. I still see a therapist. I'm on medication. I'm in a study now for neurotherapy. I'm high maintenance. I just told my wife I'm high maintenance. I need it all.
Well, you
So
get one of those brains that needs to constantly be doing something, tinkering, and you just had to find the right place to put that. And I think that's a big lesson from this, is that you don't have to put those demon thoughts, those gears churning in your brain, into bad things. You can go do good stuff with it. And it doesn't have
sure.
to be jumping into peer support. It can be literally anything that's healthy
Yes.
and giving back to your soul.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how, whenever I work with somebody and sit down, I said, well, man, what do you like doing? What do you like doing having fun? I mean, get back into doing it. One thing my therapist told me, go back into nature, walk in the woods. And I had done that. It's okay to be alone. Just like coming here, my wife was going to come with me. And then eventually we decided, maybe I need a little break. So when I came here, man, I didn't have no plans today except being on the podcast with you guys. It's been an amazing journey. I was an atheist years ago and didn't believe in anything, and I never preach at nobody. But I told you guys a story. This thing, whatever runs the show here, it keeps me going. It helped me identify some other family members I didn't know I had. It's a good life, and if you don't have a good life and you're listening to this podcast, man, you can have a good life. Just get a hold of these guys or get a hold of AFSP or the Burnout Network, and we can help you have a good life, or at least guide you to the right people.
Well, speaking of guiding to the right people, I do want to just kind of touch on experience from firsthand at the Center of Excellence, but also for any type of recovery. And there's a lot of really good ones out there. The center's amazing. Sure. It's designed for the firefighters, but there's ones for law enforcement, all sorts of first responder ones out there. Definitely exist. One of the only issues that exist with them is sometimes the clients that need it aren't willing. Can you give a little bit of perspective for those people out there that maybe have been told or may have been thinking they might need some type of recovery? Give them that insight of it's not so scary, and it'll probably be another really good decision to make if it's something you need.
I tell you, if you're out there thinking about it, or it was suggested to you, for me, it was the end of the road. Something was going in my life for people to recognize I needed help, or in my heart, I knew I needed something. I thought I was better than people. I was better than that. I didn't need to go into treatment. I'm so blessed that I went, it took all the treatments, 5 different treatment centers to finally click in my mind to get what I needed. It's not the end of the road if you go to treatment. It's the beginning. That's what I found out. And the treatment for first responders, the Center of Excellence, or Thrive and Throttle, or Shatterproof in Florida, or whatever treatment center you go to, just be open-minded. Always tell people when you go to treatment, leave it there. Whatever it is for you, just leave it there. And that's the pain, the brokenness, the disappointments. Leave it there. Talk to the counselors, spill your guts, let it all go. I remember through the years, I'd hold on, I'd just give little pieces of me of every treatment. I wouldn't give all of me. And finally, when I went through the last one, the Center of Excellence, I gave it all up. I left it all there. not only kept me alive, it keeps me sober today. It keeps me mentally healthy, and it affects my family in a positive way, the people around me, because I'm able to do things like this. Like you said, you don't have to be in peer support, but man, I could be a little kid. I can go hunting, I can go fishing, I can go spend time with my grandkids. If you don't think you have a family, you do have a family. You're not alone. I was only alone because I put myself there. I had to step through that door and create another family, and they took me under their arms and wings, so-called, and they helped me. And that's at those treatment centers. Unfortunately, some people out there don't have insurance. When somebody calls us, we make sure they get help. We create something. We'd have people come to our house, flying from England. We created something. When you get a lot of firefighters or first responders together and you say we can't do something, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, we're
hold
gonna
my
figure
beer.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
make a bad joke, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You're saying I can't do it. Hold on a sec.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's all I need to hear.
So that's amazing. And now one of the ways that you're getting the message out in your own way, like we are, is you have a podcast. So tell everybody about the Burnout Podcast Network.
That was something, I never thought I'd do a podcast. And last year, a friend of mine, Sean Neal, he's with mypodcast.media. He goes, got to do a podcast, because I was trying to figure different ways to get the message across, to make it educational, make it simple, make it raw. And I heard other podcasts, and I've heard a few of them. I wasn't a podcast guy. But we started doing that along with the Worldwide Peer Support, just to get the information. And we didn't want to just interview people, tell their story, gloom and doom. We wanted a solution behind that. And then we wanted to get some therapists on there. So that's how it started. The first podcast was with a guy that worked at 9/11 Pile. And he went through the Center of Excellence, and I met him through the Zoom meetings we used to do from the Worldwide Peer Support. And while talking on the Zoom, I said, well, let's go to Hawaii sometime, all of us. And we planned it, and we didn't know he was going to be alive because he had cancer. Well, we ended up a few years later, he stayed alive. We went to Hawaii. When the first podcast came out, I was sitting by Jimmy Young. We were at a luau, and that's when the first podcast came out. He set the tone for the whole thing. And Jimmy's still alive today. He's doing good. He's beat cancer. Jimmy came to FDIC, and not this year, but the last year, he did the steps. Well, he walked the steps, wasn't planning to. He was still fighting cancer a little bit. Then he came down, and we all were bawling like little babies. But that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to not just be a podcast and talk. We want to plan and do things with people. We want to push them. We want to challenge people to do different things. So that's how it started. You can go to burnoutpodcast.org to get to us. Now we got another URL too that we're going to switch everything over. Eventually, it's burnoutnetwork.org. You can get there by either way. Podcast is part of it, but usually, we help people that needs treatment. And then also we do a thing over in England. We're going to do a 192-mile hike August 24th for 2 weeks, because over there in England, they need some help. And we go where people need help, wherever out in the world you are. And that's what we do.
That's awesome, man. Well, you got a lot of experiences, and it sounds like with all the travels, you've been around. As we close out here, why don't you give us some recommendations? How can policymakers, frontline leaders, and departments best support the mental and behavioral health of their personnel?
The first thing is have an open door policy with your union or your leaders in your body, however you ever do that, to have that conversation. And I know you need your people at work. The best way to keep them at work and keep them on your department is keeping them alive and healthy between the ears. That eventually is going to save you money. You got to look at your budget when you're a policymaker. I get it. I get both sides. I think have a good working thing with your union. That'd be one of the things, or if you're a volunteer part with your body, be open-minded to that. Reach out to some organizations, other departments that are successful in peer support. If you don't have a peer support, start a peer support. That could be started by the body, or also the council or your alderman in town. If you're a policymaker, it's real important that the unions and policymakers go in front of them and tell them they're working together and we need money for a peer support person full time, possibly if your department's big enough for that or able to do that. I know with our department, it took a little time. I happen to be friends with the chief, and he's one of those hardcore dudes. It took a while, but keep doing it. You don't have to wait. The policymakers, you came from the front lines. Just because you don't have a problem mental health, that don't mean your body doesn't have a problem. So be open-minded and be a good leader at least open that door and have a conversation. You could just save somebody's life. In fact, I'll tell you, you will save somebody's life and help families that are suffering out there watching their loved one go down that rabbit hole.
I don't think we're gonna say anything
Nailed
better
it.
than that.
You nailed it, sir.
Yeah.
We thank you for your time today. You did amazing.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Skip.
Thank you for joining us in the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode. We have more great content coming out soon. Be sure to check out Skip on the Burnt Out Podcast or visit burntoutpodcast.org. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.